You gotta tell me American pancakes are your favorite when they're the least versatile breakfast food on the planet, and not give the deserved respect to crepes, the real Swiss Army knife. So today we are making crepes 3 different ways, and it doesn't end there. There's many ways you can go about it. The main point I wanna make is that they're so versatile, but you wanna know what else is versatile? Today's sponsor, Ghirardelli. In one of our crepes, we're gonna be using Ghirardelli baking chocolate chips, which is going to fill it with its rich, decadent, chocolatey flavor. With the holidays coming around the corner, we should really only be focused on one thing, and that is how it brings everyone together. And what better way to do that than with chocolate, right? And also maybe these crepes. You know, now that I think about it, right, we're doing but better. So then Ghirardelli is essentially making life a bite better. If you want to learn more about Ghirardelli or Ghirardelli baking chocolate chips, you can go to your local grocery store, buy yourself a bag, and find out, brother. Moving on to the recipe. In all honesty, the Ghirardelli chocolate chip version is actually my favorite out of the 3. We'll have Crepe Suzette, the Mexican hot chocolate spiced crepe, and finally a savory crepe. And that's where the beauty of a crepe comes in. It has savory qualities just as much as it has dessert qualities. That's what makes it beautiful. You can do anything with a crepe. Texturally, it's exciting. You can even make a crepe cake. What? An actual cake of crepes. We're not gonna do that today because it's really annoying, but with all that being said, let's make this, shall we?
Right, so if you're gonna make crepes, how in tarnation are you gonna do that without any batter? If you're buying store-bought pre-cooked crepes, then I need you to immediately stop and check yourself into jail. In a large bowl, add 1 cup or 150 grams of all-purpose flour, 1.5 tablespoons or 25 grams of granulated sugar. Wait a minute, Josh, that looks like a lot more than what you're saying here. Well, you'd be correct. I tripled the recipe here in order to make all 3 of these recipes, but of course you would not, or maybe you would. Anyway, in a separate bowl, add 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. We can pretend that that's what's in this bowl, okay? Editors, work your magic. Wow, look at that, incredible. Anyway, whisk that together and slowly whisk in 1 tablespoon or 14 milliliters of vegetable oil, then whisk in 1 cup or 240 milliliters of whole milk. Whisk the wet into the dry until clump-free and homogeneous. Strain through a mesh strainer or chinois if you want it ultra smooth, and that is your crepe batter. Now, before we go into the variations here, let's first talk about making a beautifully cooked crepe without the use of a crepe maker. Very easy. Get yourself a 10-inch nonstick skillet, give it a spray with cooking oil, heat that over medium heat until hot like the Bahamas. Then add a 1/3 cup or 78 milliliters of your batter and immediately swirl and rotate the pan around to coat the entire surface and form it into an even large circle. This might take you a try or 2, but don't be a little baby, all right? If the first one isn't perfect, keep at it, my child. Let that cook until the top is dry and the underside is just barely starting to get golden brown. Flip and let it cook for 15 more seconds, then toss onto a landing device like this baking sheet and repeat until all of your batter is used. Now, this recipe works with 1 batch of any of the following iterations. We've got a Mexican hot chocolate hazelnut crepe, Crepe Suzette, and finally a savory breakfast crepe. Now let's begin with the Mexican hot chocolate hazelnut crepe with a little bit of a, try. First, hazelnut filling. Get yourself 1/2 pound or 225 grams of raw hazelnuts. Pop those into an oven set to 350 Fahrenheit for 8 to 10 minutes or until deeply toasted and the skins are beginning to fall off. Let them cool for 1 minute, then using a dish towel, wipe off as much of the skins as possible. By rubbing them together, nothing better than a charming morning rubbing your nuts. Place your nuts to the side and cool to room temp. Once at room temp, pop those puppies into a food processor and begin processing on high. Literally just let that thing run. Don't get impatient and stop it, unless it cakes up on the side. Really, there are only 2 good kinds of cake, and one of those isn't in this recipe, if you know what I mean. Once it's smooth, pastified, and warm, while constantly processing, add in a 1/4 cup or 45 grams of unmelted Ghirardelli semi-sweet chocolate chips. Let those process until completely smooth and emulsified with the nut butter, then add 6 tablespoons or 80 grams of cocoa powder. Let that incorporate, then add 1 cup or 205 grams of powdered sugar, a spoonful at a time. Then once everything is incorporated, drizzle in 2 tablespoons or 24 grams of vegetable oil or hazelnut oil. And once that is beautifully smooth and velvety, your chocolate hazelnut butter is done. And I mean, look at this. It's like ribbons falling down from the great galaxy in the night sky above. Next is our creme anglaise, which, if I'm being honest, is slightly runnier than a traditional one, but that's the goal we're going for here. Separate out 4 egg yolks and place them in a small bowl along with a 1/3 cup or 70 grams of sugar mixed into them. Then in a small saucepan, add 1/2 cup or 120 milliliters of heavy cream and 1/2 cup or 120 milliliters of whole milk and the beans from 1 vanilla bean pod. Screw it, put the whole pot in there, why not? Heat that milky man until nice and steamy, but not boiling. Pour in a splash of your hot liquid into your egg yolks, mixing it in little by little until your egg mixture is nice and hot. Pour that back into your milkies and let that heat over medium-low, stirring often until it thickens enough to hold a line like this. Strain that into a bowl, set over an ice bath, and let that cool completely until it's nice and thick like me. Sorry, really a lot of butt stuff today. Optionally pop that into a squirt bottle. Now last but not least is your Mexican hot chocolate powder for sprinkling. In a medium-sized bowl, add a 1/4 cup or 55 grams of powdered sugar, 2.5 tablespoons or 40 grams of cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon or 12 grams of ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon or 13 grams of instant espresso, and 1 teaspoon or 3 grams of cayenne. Whisk that together and you have your hot chocolate spice. All right, it's assembly time. Per plate, you will fill 2 to 3 crepes by spreading about 2 tablespoons of chocolate hazelnut butter in the center of the crepe, folding it in half like a taco, then folding that in half again one more time to form a nice little, well, triangle, I guess. Repeat with the rest, then arrange that nicely on a plate. Give that a nice squiggly line, I guess, of melted Ghirardelli semi-sweet chocolate chips, just straight up melted and piped on like this. That's it. Follow that up with a nice piping, or in this case, a squirting, all right, of your creme anglaise, and good lord, it isn't looking that bad so far. Top that with some crushed toasted hazelnuts and a fatty dollop of whipped cream, and finally, a nice dusting of your Mexican hot chocolate spice, and I mean, come on. These crepes look utterly regal, truly immaculate. Next, we have a simplified and slightly untraditional Crepe Suzette. In a medium pan, add 3/4 of a cup or 150 grams of granulated sugar, 1/2 cup or 110 grams of cubed cold unsalted butter. Set that over medium heat and let it bubble. Once it starts to caramelize and homogenize in the middle, pour and stir in 3/4 of a cup or 80 milliliters of orange juice and a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of lemon juice. Bring the heat to medium high, stir to dissolve any remaining sugar, add in the zest from 1 orange, and let that boil and reduce until it starts to turn darker in color and becomes a nice syrup. About 3 to 5 minutes. Then immediately add a 1/3 cup or 80 milliliters of Grand Marnier, let it come to the boil, and immediately ignite the steam for a nice little party. Wow, look at that, so cool. Hey, fun fact, this is totally safe to do if you're smart about it, but do me a favor, don't make this your little Instagram moment where you let your hair down and show off your lovely locks, okay? Let's keep this far away from being a hazard. Anyway, once the flame goes out and you've got a nice reduced syrup, simply spoon that on top. Feel free to add fresh orange segments if your heart desires. I mean, that was pretty gosh dang easy if you ask me. Much like our next and final crepe, the breakfast version. First, we'll start with a basic Marnier. In a medium saucepan, add 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of unsalted butter. Heat that over medium until fully melted, then mix in 2 tablespoons or 20 grams of all-purpose flour until lump-free and incorporated. Cook that out for about 1 minute, then whisk in 1 1/4 cup or 275 milliliters of whole milk. Keep mixing until hot and thickened, then cut the heat and whisk in 1/2 cup or 70 grams of grated Gruyere cheese. Keep mixing until fully melted and emulsified, then season to taste with salt and a small little touch of fresh grated nutmeg for that nice je ne sais quoi. Then jump straight into assembly. First, get a little crepe, obviously. In the center, add 1 to 3 slices of prosciutto, then add a nice couple of generous spoonfuls of your Marnier sauce, followed by fresh grated Gruyere cheese. Make a little divot for your egg, crack in 1 whole egg in the center of that divot, then fold all the edges over to form a square. Hit that with flaky salt and a touch of olive oil. This is actually truffle olive oil. Gotta get the flex. You gotta. And place it in a 350-degree oven for 7 to 10 minutes or just until the white is cooked and the yolk is still runny. Optionally, while that's baking, in a small bowl, combine a small handful of finely chopped parsley, 3 cloves of garlic finely chopped, and the zest of 1 lemon. Toss together till combined and you have a gremolata. Hit it with a generous sprinkling of your gremolata and go to town. When I say town, I mean flavor town, buddy. This is goddamn Wild West and we're the flavor sheriff, alright? Now let's see if we can call ourselves crepe killers. Like if killers was spelled with a C. Does that make sense? So we have 3 different crepes. A sweet, and a savory. Should we decide a favorite? Yeah, I think we should. I already know this is gonna be my least favorite. It's the most traditional, it's delicious. I love a Crepe Suzette, don't get me wrong, but I wanna be at like a bistro in Paris and like multiple people are smoking cigarettes around me and I'm like coughing and choking. That's when I wanna enjoy a Crepe Suzette. So I'm not feeling the vibe as much with this, but it's good. Now this, Ghirardelli, shout out to them for sponsoring. This looks busting. Oh my God. Instantly, these are better. Creme anglaise, chocolate hazelnut butter, Mexican hot cocoa seasoning, roasted hazelnuts. What more do you want? This is a perfect dessert crepe, end of story. Now this is an underrated way to eat a crepe. So the outside of the crepe is a little bit crisp, the inside is moist. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a symphony. You're either making this crepe or this crepe. Period, end of story. Bon appetit. You want to know what else is circular, soft, and folds into any shape ready to be placed into the mouth? B-roll.
Guys, guys, and that is it. So we made our crepes 3 different ways. Just a major thank you to our sponsor, Ghirardelli, for sponsoring today's video and giving us these beautiful, massive quantity of Ghirardelli baking chocolate chips. I'm excited to use them, and I will definitely do that because we already buy them, so it's now I get them for free. Let's go. And just a reminder, if you want to learn more about Ghirardelli or Ghirardelli baking chocolate chips, go to your local grocery store, pick yourself up a bag.
You ain't gonna regret it, I'll tell you what.
Now, let's talk about these crepes. They turned out beautifully. The funny thing is, every time I work with crepes or make a crepe recipe, my immediate thought is, oh, I could have done this, or oh, well, now I want to do a jam one. Now I want to do one with this syrup and then brown butter and this blah, 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 blah. And it's just a nice little reminder that you can do so many things with a crepe that you can't really do with a pancake. I mean, I guess you can, but then you have to change the pancake so much. It's just, they're very singular in what they can do, whereas a crepe, it just opens up the world in a way that really no other pancake can. So take that as you will. But with all that being said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.